I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Howell Township Council regular meeting. Today is September 17, 2024. May I have opening statement, please?
This meeting is being held in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided in the manner prescribed by law. This agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal action will be taken. I'll begin with a roll call. Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadell is absent. Mayor Berger?
Present.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark, is there any reason for us to go into executive session this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we have multiple topics to discuss, including property donation, property acquisition, and litigation.
Okay. May I have a motion to go into executive?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
May I have-
Second.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening. It is September 17, 2024, and I'd like to open the Howell Township meeting.
I'll begin with a roll call. Councilwoman Fisher?
Here.
Councilman Gager?
Here.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Here.
Mayor Berger?
Present.
Thank you.
Opening statement.
This meeting is being held in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Adequate notice has been provided in the manner prescribed by law. This agenda is complete to the extent known, and formal action will be taken.
Roll call. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a proclamation?
Yes, for Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, September 2024. Whereas September has been designated as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas Turn the Town Teal is a campaign to create awareness of ovarian cancer and its symptoms, volunteers tie ribbons throughout town centers and hand out symptom cards. And whereas ovarian cancer is often referred to as a silent disease, as the symptoms are often vague and subtle, there is no early detection test for ovarian cancer, which means it is critical that women become aware of the known symptoms. And whereas 1 in 67 women will develop ovarian cancer in their lifetime, 2/3 of those diagnosed will die from the disease. And whereas if detected in the early stages, the survival rate for ovarian cancer is 90 to 95%. And whereas increased public awareness of the disease, its risk factors, and its subtle symptoms may save lives, as women across New Jersey and their doctors learn to recognize the warning signs of ovarian cancer, which are often the only indication of illness. And whereas more ovarian cancer research can help to develop reliable diagnostics, better therapies, and prevention strategies, thereby offering women in New Jersey the opportunity to win their battle for life against this most deadly of all gynecological cancers. Now, therefore, I, Teresa Berger, Mayor of the Township, on behalf of the governing body, do hereby proclaim September 2024 as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in Howell Township and support the Turn the Town Teal awareness campaign.
Thank you very much. I believe we have a presentation.
Hi, my name is Matt Howard. I'm the Director of Community Development. I wanted to take a minute to just do a public presentation for a grant application that feels like it's been around forever, because it has been. It's a Monmouth County grant, open space grant from 2018. We had applied for funding for a concession stand and building and restroom building. We modified that grant a few years later to take out the concession stand and to do a restroom building. We've worked on engineering since then, and we found a few hardships. One being that the sanitary force main that's located in 547, County Road 547, MRSA, the operator of that line, is requesting that we don't tap into it The issue is that there are breakages along that line in different sections on this roadway, and there's questions about its suitability to be tapped into and to be used. We don't want to create any more issues, unintended consequences. There's a potential that this line might get replaced in the future as a capital project through MRSA. At that time, we could definitely revisit. So then we had to pivot to a septic system for a bathroom. The idea is that we feel like facilities are needed here. The leagues get great use out of this field. The township is starting to use this for our events, and we want to make sure that we have top-notch facilities. It's getting so much use that the engineering behind a septic system, you can't just do a simple system that you would have at your house. The largest size septic system would not work. It would overflow. We have tournaments for the softball leagues, tournaments for the soccer leagues. They get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people coming, and it's not feasible. So we're looking at a multi-year permit application process to build what's effectively a treatment plant, to have some type of septic system and disposal system, and that's not a great use of funds or efforts. So we're pivoting away from the bathrooms for temporarily until some better solutions come up. But what we want to do is still utilize the grant. It's been around for 6 years. We need to use the money. We don't want to lose it. So we're looking at installing several improvements to the park. There's a walking trail throughout. We're looking to do pavement on that trail instead of stone dust, extend it along the perimeter where possible. We're also looking to grade certain areas of the parks, of the fields. They're not able to be used because of some slope changes, and we want to make sure that we maximize the area out there. So we're going to do some field grading. We're also going to install storage buildings for the league use, for all the leagues out there, as well as the township. And we're also looking at shade structures, benches, picnic tables, seating of that variety. Previously, a couple years ago, we built an area and installed electric and room for food trucks. The concession building went away a few years ago because with food trucks coming in, it's a better, cheaper way of bringing food and concessions into the park, not a burden on the taxpayer, because somebody always has to maintain those buildings. Somebody has to work them, or you have to hire a company to do so. And volunteers are hard to come by. The leagues have a hard time with volunteers, so we listened to what the league said. This is kind of a pivot we made. So we are utilizing already. If you saw during the events, we had food trucks out at the park, and we felt with how popular those are, we didn't necessarily need to invest into the large concession stand. So this is a public hearing. We're accepting public comment for the revisions of the application, again, away from the bathroom and concession building to more spread out improvements, including the walking trail, storage buildings, shade structures, seating, and benches. So if anybody in the audience does have any public comment and wants to come up, they can feel free to do so now. Seeing none, that would close the public comment portion of this. That was a requirement for the grant to do the revision. So we're going to take the meeting minutes from the presentation and the discussion and send that to Monmouth County and start to move forward with improving the park. And we would expect construction to be ongoing in the spring on these improvements.
Could you give us, maybe at the next meeting, a rendition of what it will look like?
Yes, so we haven't prepared any plans yet, but we'll start to do that, and we'll come in with something.
Okay, thank you. The next is acceptance of the minutes. May I have a motion?
Motion to accept minutes from August 20th, 2024?
Second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
I'm abstaining, I wasn't at the meeting.
Thank you.
Are there any reports? Mr. Clark?
Sure, I have a few. So, spoke with our engineer, Justin Yost, and he wanted me to inform everybody that we are scheduled to mill and repave both 5 Points Road from the Colts Neck border to Manfrey Court and Newton's Corner Road from the Brick border to Converse Street in October. Both projects will be completed overnight to avoid traffic disruptions. concrete work has already started on Five Points Road and will start on Newton's Corner Road tomorrow morning. So there is a traffic update. Just want to remind everybody that this Saturday is Howell Day, so we encourage everybody to attend. It's always a great event. Looks like the weather is going to hold, so it should end up being a nice fall day. October 19th, we have our Fall Fest and Optimist Club of Howell Annual Car Show. That's going to be at Oak Glen Park. It's going to have live music, Eddie Testa Band, food trucks. The Howell PBA will be there with their beer and wine truck, and a number of other things. So encourage everybody to participate in that. Our ever-popular Halloween decorating contest, October 22nd through the 27th this year. Come to our website and sign up. It's always been very, very well received. Thursday, October 24th, here at Town Hall, New Jersey Natural Gas will be sponsoring its annual Energy Assistance Day. So those in the community who may need help with their bills over the winter are encouraged to come to Town Hall and meet with New Jersey Natural Gas and participate in the program.
Is that going to be posted on the website?
Yes, absolutely. November 17th, our third annual Turkey Trot will take place at Oak Glen Park. So that's it for the events, and then I did want to update everybody on one item that we discussed briefly in exec, and obviously, warehouses have been a controversial topic in this town over the past several years. The professionals were given some fairly explicit instructions by council to take a look at every possible opportunity to minimize the impact of the warehouses in town. We have done that. Obviously, we still have a few moving parts left, so I can't go into great detail, but I will update the council in public now, as well as the public itself, and let everybody know that we are looking to purchase the Victory Road parcel that is currently subject to a warehouse application for development. We have, like I said, a few more moving parts to get in place, but I anticipate having a more broad update in October on this, so that's where we are right now with it.
Thank you. No? Caitlin?
No.
No. Diane?
No, nothing.
Are we good to begin the meeting?
Good.
Okay. I'm going to open up for the hearing of citizens and public comment on the consent agenda items and general matters.
Each person shall first give their name and address to the clerk. The council should be addressed as a collective body and not as individual members. Each person shall have one turn to address the council, and no comments shall exceed a total of 5 minutes. Speakers shall be notified when their time has run, and no time extensions shall be permitted.
Do we have a...
There's no names on it, so anybody can come up.
Does anybody want to come up to the podium? No?
Question, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it in reference to the agenda of your meeting, or is it just open to public comment?
This is open for public comment. We would like it to be about the agenda, but if there's a comment that other people have come up and made comments, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. We'd like
Just-
to hear permission.
Absolutely.
Just come up to the microphone.
I'm Brian Cabell. My address is protected by Daniels Law, and I'm not obligated to give it to you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As a business administrator with decades of experience in emergency services and a former elected official of a large municipality, I am saddened to stand before you as a father in support of my son, Kevin Cabell. The egregious practices of Howell Township Police Department, as condoned by their leadership, has led me to stand before you tonight. Recently, you and your police department were served a lawsuit regarding discriminatory practices of Howell Township Police, its dispatchers, and its leadership. Our son dedicated 9 years of unblemished service to protecting and serving the residents of Howell Township. Our son was looking forward to serving as an officer in Howell Township Police Department for his entire career. However, that quickly changed when he became a target of ongoing harassment and shaming. The leadership failed our son, allowing him to remain at the hands of ridicule, condoning, and encouraging the acts taken upon him. Kevin suffered in silence, never sharing what he endured daily for fear of retaliation. He was afraid for his own safety. My questions tonight will be statements that I encourage you to take note of and review so that you can begin to put the pieces of a dysfunctional police department together again. Our lawsuit was filed. What were the next steps? Chief Starro attempted to censor those who were speaking the truth as to what Kevin Cabell experienced and had to endure. Chief Starro attempts to censor any criticism of his leadership within the police department. Chief Starro immediately employed the Darvo principle, and for those who are unaware, I will explain what it is. The D in Darvo means deny the behavior, the A is for attack the individual doing the confronting, and R means reverse the roles of the victim and offender. The perpetrator assumes the victim role and turns the true victim into an alleged offender, attacking by trying to undermine their credibility through false accusations. A true leader would own the problem and quickly look for a resolution no matter what the consequences may be. You do not have this in Chief Starro, Captain Yergel, or Captain Mazio. Chief Starro has referred to my son's civil suit publicly as friendships gone bad. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight, this is leadership gone bad. We are here tonight to say that incidences like my son had to endure should never be minimized, nor should a mockery of harassment and violation of law against discrimination, especially from a sworn law enforcement officer who serves as the chief officer of the police department. Furthermore, I implore you to take the time to read the mission statement and value statement of Howell Township Police. Quote, Howell Police is committed to protect, preserve, and safeguard the Constitution and civil rights. They have failed my son. They have not protected his civil rights, but far worse, despite their oath, they have violated them. The value statement says, we value teamwork and cooperation in combining our diverse backgrounds, skills, and beliefs to achieve a common goal. Again, they failed Kevin despite their oath. Let's talk about the residents in Howell Township and those commuting and driving through the town. Are they safe and free from harassment and hatred? Will they too, or have they already been a target of the same officers that have an obvious hatred for the LGBTQ community? Additionally, the police department accreditation standards by New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police have a standard that addresses discrimination and harassment. I question were these policies that were just recently submitted for their accreditation process fraudulent policies. I believe so. It is very blatant that they do not follow nor enforce their officers when wrongdoing was happening in their own very own department. Again, our son's diverse background did not fit into the mold of Chief Starro and his senior officers. As elected officials, each of you set the standards that must be followed. If these are the standards set by you, the governing body, then there's no wonder why Chief Starro and his leadership team feel that they're above the law and can get away with this reprehensible behavior. The change of behavior begins with you. As elected officials, you are sworn to uphold the Constitution and laws of the state of New Jersey, which ultimately affects each and every resident within Howell Township, regardless of their diverse background. You, as the governing body, have been made aware of a civil complaint filed by my son. You now have personal knowledge that others within your municipality have failed to comply with the same oath you have taken. One must wonder why the comments section on social media has stopped. The residents of your community deserve better. You deserve better of your appointed officials in your elected capacity. Remember, they reflect you. Despite Chief Starro's directive, I will not be silenced or intimidated. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Please come up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and a council.
Your name and address for the record?
Thank you, give me the chance. My name is Elizabeth Lightbody Seimer. I reside at 714 Washington Street, Toms River. I stand here as a proud aunt to an amazingly courageous young man who has been forced to endure what no one should ever have to endure in this lifetime. I, as his aunt, am proud to say that his name is Kevin Cabell. Kevin is one of the kindest, caring individuals who would go above and beyond for his family and friends. He worked hard serving and protecting the Howell community and his fellow brothers and sisters in law enforcement, only to be betrayed by his senior leadership and fellow officers. He was bullied, tortured, and threatened daily. I always knew my nephew was putting his life on the line for others. Never did I imagine that his own life was being threatened daily by officers who wore the same uniform. I commend him for having the courage to go to that place of employment, not knowing what torture was behind the door waiting for him that day. He became the blunt mockery at the PBA meetings, even though he was not there to defend himself. He was not able to have the opportunity to tell his story when he was ready, in his own words, on his own terms. It is my hope that you take this opportunity to reflect and educate the Howell Police Department on equality and the right to live as one would like to live, to which no one should be the judge. Unlike your police department, I will always be here as his aunt to honor, to serve, and to protect him from the cruelty that is still ongoing in this world. May God have mercy on the souls that contributed to the victimization of my nephew, Kevin Cabell. Thank you.
Thank you. Please come up.
Your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council.
Your name and address for the record.
My name is Dr. Terry Kibel. My address is protected by Daniel's Law, so therefore I will not be stating it for the record. I come before you this evening as a mother seeking justice for my son, Kevin Kibel. Our son proudly wore the uniform of the Howell Township Police Department as a police officer while protecting and serving the residents of Howell Township, protecting you. Living a life of service began for Kevin at the young age of 14 when he joined the Police Explorers with the Toms River Township Police Department. He then followed by volunteering in EMS. Our son has always recognized the value of serving others in their time of need. We are a family of dedication to our community for decades. During his time with the Howell Township Police Department, he sadly became a target for his perceived sexual orientation. The harassment, targeted actions, and misconduct that my son has endured were perpetrated by his own brothers and sisters in law enforcement. Law enforcement officers that took a public oath, took that public oath to serve and to protect our community faithfully, impartially, and justly. My son has been a victim of your very own officers and police department. And I would appreciate if you could just look in my direction as I speak. Maybe that's too difficult for you as a business manager.
You can address the council directly.
Right. I understand, sir. I have more experience than you do. It is astonishing to me that presently, with the wealth of knowledge that is available and taught in most workplaces regarding bullying, diversity, and inclusion, that this would be a conversation that we would have to have. Kevin chose to suffer in silence, as that seemed to be the safest option at the time. He attempted to cope with the ongoing harassment, shaming, and threats to his personal safety. As the harassment continued to escalate and Kevin no longer felt safe, he chose to resign. He chose to resign from the career that he so longed for. I want you to pause for a moment, perhaps as you're driving home tonight. Think of Kevin. Imagine him as if he were your own. Think of his vulnerability, the torment, the embarrassment, the shame, and the isolation. then think of those in the community that you serve in your capacity, each and every one of you that are sitting here tonight. Ask yourself these questions, if you would. Is the behavior and conduct one that you would condone? Is this behavior being carried over to the residents served by this police department? Are the residents in the community being targeted because of their perceived sexual orientation? Are there additional victims, whether within the police department or living within your community, that have been a victim, that are fearful to come forward? The leadership, the Howell Township Police Department, Chief Storrow, all of his brass, should be held accountable for the behavior that existed in the walls of that department and the lack of protection of one of their very own, my son. In conclusion, may our son's courage persevere in the face of adversity. May it inspire you to maintain the values that are set forth as a governing body. May you stand up for human rights and uphold the oath of the office that each one of you have pledged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else that would like to come up to speak? At this time, may I have a motion to close the public?
Motion to close public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I would like to address the council, and before we do a response to public comment, matters that were addressed today, everybody is welcome to come up and speak their piece during public comment, and I'm glad that people did today, but I would respectfully request council refrain from commenting because we are in active litigation right now, and the township does not comment on ongoing litigation, and that is really at the heart of what's going on right now, so that would be my request to council.
You want to go through, does anybody have anything they want to pull out of the resolutions to have a separate vote? No? Okay. May I have a motion? Resolutions R 24-322.
To 346B.
346B.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolutions R24-322 through R24-350.
346B.
B. 46B.
46B, I had the old one. Yeah. Oh, 46B, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
I'll second that correction.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The consent resolutions pass.
Resolution 24-347, appointing member to the Howell Township Lake Restorations and Wildlife Management Committee. Do we have a name that we're posing?
Wendy Gager?
May I have a motion to accept Wendy?
Could we do them all together?
No, these
No.
have to be done separately.
No,
No, each
let's
need to be voted separately.
I'll make a motion to insert Wendy Gazer into that vacant position.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Abstain.
Thank you. Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Do you want the next three to be, okay. Resolution 24-348, providing for the insertion of a special item of revenue in the 2024 budget, Chapter 159, P.L. 1948, Monmouth County Senior Services Grant. May I have a motion?
We also have the National Opioid Settlement Fund and the Drunk Driving
Oh, I
Enforcement
thought you
Fund.
said to do them
No,
separately.
each of them vote separately, please.
You want separate? Oh, pardon. Thank you.
I'll move
Motion
that
to-
resolution, Mayor.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Resolution R24-349, providing for the insertion of a special item of revenue in the 2024 budget, Chapter 159 PL 1948, National Opioid Settlement Funds. May I have a motion?
Motion for R24-349.
Second?
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Resolution 24-350, providing for the insertion of a special item of revenue in the 2024 budget, Chapter 159 PL 1948, Drunk Driving Enforcement Fund. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I will second that.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The resolution passes.
Unfinished business. Ordinance 24-34, ordinance amending Chapter 57 Animals of the Township Code of the Township of Howell to include fines for the running at large of livestock. I'm sorry. I think it's funny.
I'll make a motion to accept such ordinance.
We have to have a public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So I'll open up for discussion. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Motion to close public?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 24-34.
Thank you.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
Ordinance 24-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 188-64 and Chapter 139-31 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to permit family home daycares in residential zones of the township. I would like to open up for public discussion.
Mayor, I would like to put something on the record regarding this. The planning board recently met and to discuss this ordinance. I believe they thought it was consistent with our zonings and regulations, but they made some comments about us addressing some additional regulations in relation to daycare operations that they'd like to see us put into this ordinance. Those regulations that they were addressing are not relevant to family home daycares. They are relevant to commercial child care operation facilities. So what we're looking at today is permitting home daycares for families where they have 5 children or less. So they're not subject to the same kind of standards as a regular commercial operation of daycare centers are subject to. So those comments, while are completely relevant to your typical daycare, they're not relevant to your home daycare situation where you have one mom taking care of a couple of kids. So those additional requirements we're not looking to add onto this ordinance.
I just have a question.
Sure.
If it was me, is that me with my 5 kids or me with our 5 kids?
So it could be up to 5 children. If you have a couple kids are related, you could have up to 8 children, but they don't all have to be related. So did that answer your question?
It did.
So basically what this ordinance does is it allows it, because it's already allowed under the MLUL, that family home daycare, so somebody operating that kind of business is permitted in all residential districts in the township
Yeah,
as a permitted use.
right, so the MLUL has already put that in. There's a few uses they've put in as permitted uses, some outright, the townships have no ability to zone in and out. So
I personally have no problem as a permitted use.
Right.
I'm looking at it, I'm sorry, on a clinical in a clinical way, and there are guidelines, I believe, that should be followed in any daycare. To
Agreed.
ensure,
So a family daycare does have to get licensed and inspected through the state, and there's oversight from the state. This is not just a permit through community development and you're off and running. There is a state license. The issue we're having now is that either they're unlicensed or they're just not following, especially the number of children as they should, and there's far more than even 8. So the issue right now is that the ordinance is silent on it. The MLUL permits it, but there's no enforcement other than the state. And let's be honest, the state's not up on that too much. So the idea is if I can see something and prove that you don't have a family daycare, you're actually running a commercial daycare out of your home, then that should be corrected. There's a chance you don't have a license and oversight at all. That absolutely needs to be corrected. We can't do that in a void. So for me to go write an ordinance to municipal court on a state law, that's not really going to work. That's why we're mirroring, this ordinance completely mirrors the state law, requires the state license. If you're in compliance with the state, you're going to be fine with us. If you're not, though, now we have an enforcement mechanism to correct that.
well, can we put something in place that, Monmouth County Department of Health, it would go in, because State's not
one
gonna
of
go
the,
in.
yeah, so one of the regulations in this ordinance matches the license requirements for family home daycares. I wasn't clear on the requirements that the planning board were seeking. The requirements that the planning board were seeking were for, site remediation and some very complicated oversight for child daycare centers, which are in place for child daycare centers, not your run-of-the-mill family home daycare. But your family home daycare still has to meet certain standards, and under this ordinance, as long as you meet the standards that are set by the state, then you meet our standards. So we're not making it any harder, but we're just giving our code department an enforcement mechanism. So if you're not meeting those standards, we can make sure you are meeting those standards.
So I'm sorry, it's just,
The difference, I think, is between the family home daycare and a commercial child care operation.
I understand the difference, believe me, that's not my concern. My concern is that I want to ensure that the Department of Health, local, is going to have some oversight on an audit-type basis.
I believe that oversight is the state. It's not the Department of Health.
That's why I'm asking
So-
for the local one to do it.
So when somebody comes in and says they want to do the home daycare, we're not going to issue our simple land use permit unless we see the state permit. So they're going to have to prove to us that they're in compliance with the state, that they have those regulations, and the state does inspections. Enforcement is a different animal. I have a feeling what we're seeing most of is completely unlicensed child care facilities. I don't think they're just exceeding the count. I think they're just unlicensed. And we can start to weed those out because we're getting those complaints, and right now we don't really have a response for them. Does that answer your question?
If you're asking us to make the county health department enforce something that's not in their jurisdiction through a local ordinance, we can't do that. But if it's a requirement through the state requirements that the county has to come in and do it, they have to do it to get their license.
I understand that. I totally understand that. I understand the entire process. My issue is that the state will go in once and then maybe go in 6 years later. They're not going to do an annual visit. They don't have the staff to do that, which is why I'm just asking, how are we going to ensure that these facilities are going to remain healthy?
May I? My understanding, we need to pass this ordinance so then we can start enforcing to some degree when we receive the complaints, correct?
Correct.
I think it might be overreach at this point, and it might be up to the parent who's dropping off the child to say, to the homeowner, I'd like to see your certification, I'd like to see your license, and, I get what Mr. Berger says, I
I'm talking about,
agree.
look, we lived through COVID.
No, I agree.
So I'm just talking about, it's all, in my mind, this is all health-related. That's
Yes,
all my
I just don't
concerns
think
are.
we have that, we don't have
That's all.
that power.
Right, the standards that are required by the license are being checked by the state. I'm not sure, I can get back to you on what that cycle is, whether it's annual, biannual, or whatever the state's doing. I'm not sure what their inspection process is. Again, the idea was that if we have these operations in town, we want to make sure they're licensed properly.
And typically,
There's
these
no argument about
licenses
that.
are voluntary licenses, and through this ordinance, we're making them mandatory in the town. So it's kind of an extra step that we're adding here that isn't,
I'm not opposing
Yeah.
it, I'm just.
I know, I would
have
just-
other concerns, that's all.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
We use the term family care, so at what point would grandmom have to be concerned that she has 6 of her grandchildren at her house and she's watching them during the day?
So this is meant for a commercial operation, which is that you're getting money to do this. The law does include related family members and gives you allowance for that. That's not really the intent here. Most of these are running as a business, upfront operational, and, we're seeing 15, 16 kids dropped off at a house, and we want to be able to just
So
make sure.
specifically, we're not saying, grandchildren, we're not talking about monies exchanged, we're talking about,
There is money.
No, money exchanged.
so if grandmom's not paid, then this is not applicable.
Of course.
Okay, I just think it's important that this is said, because I think once we start saying family care, that kind of.
These are terms, these are terms defined by the state. You have
I
a
know.
family home daycare, which is 5 kids or less with the allowance of family members to go up to 8, or you have a child care facility, which is 6 children or more. It goes into the ages, it goes into the grades and all that too.
Right.
A lot more to it, but those terms are in the MLUL and the licensing and the laws.
And generalized acceptable terms. But we're not saying, I just want to be sure that grandparents or aunts or whoever's watching, the children during the day, they're not alarmed.
No.
They know that what they're doing is fine, and,
Of course.
yeah, it's just important, everybody's clear, that's all. Thanks.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Excuse me, we need a public hearing?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Get a little carried.
I got lost. I would like to open this up for a public discussion. Seeing there none, I'd like a motion to close.
Motion to close public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 24-35.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is adopted.
Introduction of ordinances, 024-36. An ordinance amending Chapter 7-14 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to prohibit certain vehicles from parking in public parking lots. May I have a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce ordinance 24-36.
Second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
The ordinance is properly introduced.
I'd like to introduce ordinance 2437, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to prohibit parking of inoperable vehicles on public streets. May I have a motion to introduce?
Motion to introduce ordinance 24-37.
I'll second that motion.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is properly introduced.
Ordinance 24-38, an ordinance amending Chapter 7-3 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to prohibit certain vehicles from parking on public streets or township-owned properties. May I have a motion to introduce?
I'll make a motion to introduce that ordinance.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is properly introduced.
Ordinance 24-39, an ordinance amending Chapter 220 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell to prohibit camping and sleeping in public streets and on public property. May I have a motion?
Motion to accept ordinance 24-39.
Introduce.
Introduce, I mean.
I'll second the intro.
Thanks.
Councilwoman Fisher?
Yes.
Councilman Gager?
Yes.
Councilwoman O'Donnell?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nadell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Thank you. The ordinance is properly introduced.
The next regularly scheduled council meeting is October 1, 2024. Executive session is at 6 and regular is at 7. Is there any further business that needs to occur? I would ask for a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.